The garden between us. She sat alone by the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass. Her fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the old gardening gloves. They were worn at the fingertips, stained with soil from decades past. She hadn't worn them since the stroke last spring. Her name was Eleanor, and she was 78. Every morning, she drank tea at exactly 7:30 a.m., read the newspaper, and stared at the garden. The garden had once been her pride. Roses, lavender, climbing jasmine. Now it was tangled, wild, half dead in places. Routine gave her comfort, especially since Arthur passed away. Arthur had been her husband for 53 years. He was quiet, kind, and always fixed things before she even noticed they were broken. He built the stone path through the roses. He carved their initials into the old oak at the garden's edge. She missed his voice most, the low, steady tone that calmed her storms. But today, something felt different. The rain slowed, then stopped. A shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds. It landed right on the rusty gate at the back of the garden. She hadn't opened that gate in over 10 years. Not since the accident. She stood slowly, joints creaking like old floorboards. She shuffled to the coat rack, pulled on her raincoat, and stepped outside. The air smelled of wet earth and forgotten summers. Her slippers sank slightly into the muddy grass. She stopped at the rosebush, Arthur's favorite. One bloom remained, small and pink, fighting through the thorns. She touched it gently. Then she walked toward the gate. The latch was stiff, rusted shut. She tugged once, twice. On the third try, it gave with a groan. Beyond the gate was a narrow path, overgrown with ivy and wild mint. She remembered walking this path with Lily. Lily, her granddaughter. Bright-eyed, curious, always asking why the sky was blue or why worms didn't have legs. Lily had loved this garden. She'd chase butterflies here, dig for treasure, and nap under the oak tree. But that was before the accident. Before the car skidded on black ice. Before Eleanor blamed herself for letting Lily walk home alone. Before silence fell between her and her daughter Claire. Claire never said it outright, but Eleanor felt the distance. Visits became rare. Phone calls shorter. Birthdays forgotten. Eleanor told herself it was grief, but grief doesn't vanish. It hides in corners, in closets, in gardens left to rot. She stepped through the gate. The path curved gently downhill. Birds chirped overhead, unaware of human sorrow. She reached the bottom and stopped. There, beneath the willow tree, was a small wooden bench. It was cracked, moss-covered, but still standing. This was where she and Lily used to read stories, where Lily learned to tie her shoes, where Eleanor taught her to whisper wishes to the wind. She sat down slowly, the wood cold even through her coat. She closed her eyes. She could almost hear Lily's laugh, bright, bubbling, fearless. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. Footsteps crunched behind her. She didn't turn. "Grandma?" The voice was soft, hesitant. Eleanor's breath caught. It had been 6 years. 6 years since she last heard that voice. She opened her eyes. There stood Lily, taller now, hair longer, face older, but still her Lily. "You remembered this place," Eleanor whispered. Lily nodded, eyes glistening. "I came back every summer, even when Mom said not to." Eleanor's throat tightened. "You did?" "Yeah, I'd sit here, read, think about you." Lily sat beside her, careful not to crowd her. "I missed you," Lily said. Eleanor reached out, trembling. She touched Lily's hand. It was warm, real. "I missed you too," Eleanor said, cracking. They sat in silence for a long time. The wind rustled the leaves. A ladybug landed on Eleanor's knee. Lily smiled. "Remember when you told me ladybugs bring luck?" Eleanor nodded.
"I still believe that." Lily leaned her head on Eleanor's shoulder. "I brought something." She pulled a small trowel from her backpack. "And seeds." Eleanor blinked. "Seeds?" "Yeah, marigolds, sunflowers, and lavender, your favorite." Eleanor's eyes filled again. "You want to fix the garden?" Lily nodded. "Together." The word hung in the air like a promise. Eleanor looked at her hands, wrinkled, spotted, weak. Then she looked at Lily's, young, strong, eager. "Okay," she said. They stood. Walked back up the path, past the roses, past the oak tree, to the heart of the garden. Lily handed her the trowel. Eleanor took it. It felt heavier than she remembered, but not too heavy. They knelt side by side. Lily dug the first hole. Eleanor held the seed packet. Her fingers fumbled with the corner. Lily gently took it, opened it, and poured a few seeds into Eleanor's palm. "Like this?" Eleanor asked. "Perfect," said Lily. They planted in silence at first. Then Lily began to talk. About school, about her friends, about how she wanted to be a botanist. Eleanor listened. Really listened. Not just with her ears, but with her heart. She asked questions. She laughed at Lily's jokes. She even told a story About the time Arthur tried to grow pineapples in the greenhouse. Lily giggled. Did he really? He did. They never grew, but he kept trying for 3 summers. They planted row after row, sunflowers near the fence, lavender along the stone path, marigolds around the oak tree.
By noon, their backs ached. Their hands were dirty. Their clothes were stained. But they were smiling. Claire arrived just after 1. She stood at the garden gate, frozen. Her mouth opened, then closed. She hadn't been here in years. Not since the accident. Not since the blame. Not since the silence. She watched her mother and her daughter kneeling in the dirt, laughing, working together. Something inside her cracked. She walked forward slowly. "Mom," she called. Eleanor looked up. Claire's eyes were wet. I didn't know she was coming." Lily stood. "Mom, I invited myself." Claire looked at her daughter, then at her mother. "I'm sorry," Claire whispered. Eleanor stood, brushing dirt from her knees. "No," she said, "I'm sorry." Claire shook her head. "I blamed you, but it wasn't your fault. It was an accident. A terrible, senseless accident." Eleanor stepped forward. She opened her arms. Claire walked into them. They held each other tightly. Lily watched, tears rolling down her cheeks. She joined the hug. All 3 of them pressed together in the middle of the ruined, reborn garden. They stayed like that until the sun began to dip. Then Claire pulled back. "I brought sandwiches," she said, smiling weakly. They ate on the grass under the oak tree. Claire told stories, too, about Lily as a baby, about her first steps, her first words. Eleanor listened, soaking in every detail. She realized how much she'd missed, how much she'd shut out. After lunch, they kept planting. Claire joined them. She hadn't gardened since she was a girl, but her hands remembered. They worked until the sky turned orange. Then they sat on the bench under the willow, exhausted, happy, quiet. "I think we should do this every weekend," Lily said. Claire nodded. "I'll bring lemonade." Eleanor smiled. "And I'll make scones." They made a plan. Every Saturday morning. Garden together. Talk. Laugh. Heal. The next week, they came back. And the week after that. And the week after that. Slowly, the garden changed. Weeds were pulled. Paths were cleared. New flowers bloomed. But more than the garden changed, Eleanor stopped staring out the window. She started walking, first to the mailbox, then around the block, then all the way to the park. Claire stopped rushing through visits. She stayed longer. She asked about Arthur. She cried with her mother. She learned how to prune roses. Lily brought friends. They painted rocks for the garden. They built a birdhouse. They had picnics under the oak tree. 2 years passed. The garden was alive again. So were they. On Eleanor's 80th birthday, they threw a party in the garden. Neighbors came. Friends came. Even Arthur's old fishing buddy showed up with a cake. Eleanor wore a sun hat and gardening gloves. She danced with Lily. She slow danced with Claire. She even danced alone, twirling under the string lights, laughing like a girl. That night, as everyone left, Eleanor sat on the bench under the willow. Claire and Lily joined her. "Thank you," Eleanor said. "For what?" Lily asked. "For coming back." Claire squeezed her hand. "We never really left, Mom. We just got lost for a while." Eleanor nodded. "Sometimes getting lost is how you find your way home." Lily rested her head on Eleanor's shoulder. "I'm glad we found you." Eleanor kissed the top of her head. "I'm glad you never stopped looking." They sat there until the stars came out, until the crickets sang, until the world felt soft again. The next morning, Eleanor woke early. She made tea. She read the paper. Then she put on her gardening gloves. She stepped outside. The garden glowed in the morning light. Bees buzzed. Birds sang. Flowers nodded in the breeze. She walked to the stone path. She touched the carved initials, A plus E. "I did okay, didn't I, Arthur?" she whispered. The wind rustled the leaves. She smiled. She knew he heard her. She knelt by the lavender. She began to weed. Her hands moved slowly but surely. She wasn't alone anymore. She would never be alone again. And that made all the difference. The seasons turned. Winter came. Snow covered the garden, but they still came. They shoveled the path. They hung lights on the oak tree. They drank hot chocolate on the bench, wrapped in blankets. Spring returned. More seeds, more laughter, more memories. One April morning, Eleanor didn't wake up. Claire found her in bed, peaceful, a faint smile on her lips. On her nightstand was a note. It read, "Thank you for finding me again. Plant marigolds for me this year, and don't forget to whisper wishes to the wind. Eleanor." They buried her under the oak tree, right beside Arthur. Lily planted marigolds around the grave. Claire planted lavender. They still come every Saturday. They bring scones. They bring lemonade. They bring stories. They sit on the bench under the willow. They talk to Eleanor. They talk to Arthur. They listen to the wind. And sometimes, when the light is just right, they swear they hear laughter, bright, bubbling, fearless. The garden lives on. So do they. Years later, Lily brings her own daughter. Her name is Eleanor. She has her great-grandmother's eyes and her smile. She chases butterflies. She digs for treasure. She naps under the oak tree. Claire watches them from the bench. She sips her tea. She smiles. She whispers to the wind, "I miss you, Mom." The wind whispers back, "I'm right here." The seasons turned. Winter came. Snow covered the garden, but they still came. They shoveled the path. They hung lights on the oak tree. They drank hot chocolate on the bench, wrapped in blankets. Spring returned. More seeds, more laughter, more memories. One April morning, Eleanor didn't wake up. Claire found her in bed, peaceful, a faint smile on her lips. On her nightstand was a note. It read, "Thank you for finding me again. Plant marigolds for me this year. And don't forget to whisper wishes to the wind. Eleanor." They buried her under the oak tree, right beside Arthur. Lily planted marigolds around the grave. Claire planted lavender. They still come every Saturday. They bring scones. They bring lemonade. They bring stories. They sit on the bench under the willow. They talk to Eleanor. They talk to Arthur. They listen to the wind. And sometimes, when the light is just right, they swear they hear laughter, bright, bubbling, fearless. The garden lives on. So do they. Years later, Lily brings her own daughter. Her name is Eleanor. She has her great-grandmother's eyes and her smile. She chases butterflies. She digs for treasure. She naps under the oak tree. Claire watches them from the bench. She sips her tea. She smiles. She whispers to the wind, "I miss you, Mom." The wind whispers back, "I'm right here." The garden between them was never really forgotten. It was waiting, just like love, just like family, just like hope. And sometimes all it takes is one step through a rusty gate, one seed, one hand to hold, to begin again. Claire still drinks tea at 7:30 a.m. She still reads the paper. But now she waters the geraniums, and she talks to them. She tells them about Eleanor, about Arthur, about Lily, about little Eleanor. She tells them how love doesn't die. It grows. It spreads. It blooms again. Even after winter. Even after silence. Even after loss. All it needs is someone willing to pick up the trowel and begin. Little Eleanor runs up to her grandmother. "Look, Grandma, a ladybug!" Claire smiles. "Make a wish." Little Eleanor closes her eyes tight. She whispers. Then she opens them. "What did you wish for?" Claire asks. Little Eleanor grins. "That we never stop coming here." Claire pulls her close. "We won't, sweetheart." "Promise?" "I promise." And under the old oak tree, with the wind in their hair and the earth beneath their feet, they believe it. Together. Always. The garden remembers. The wind remembers. The love remembers. And so do they.